Hello, everyone. Virgo, your love story is about to become the kind that people write novels about, isn't it? Not generic romance or predictable fairy tale, but something so uniquely beautiful, so perfectly aligned with who you actually are as Virgo, that it's going to redefine what you thought love could be. And the extraordinary part is this isn't fantasy. This is your actual future crystallizing right now, assembling itself from all the careful choices you've made, all the standards you've maintained, all the times you refused to settle for mediocre connection because you knew something exceptional was possible if you just stayed patient enough to let it find you. Let me share what's orchestrating in the legendary love frequencies surrounding your existence right now. The first absolutely magical thing breaking through is you're approaching love that actually appreciates your Virgo nature instead of trying to fix it. You're probably so used to being told you're too analytical, too particular, too careful, too slow to open up. But you're about to meet person who finds your precision absolutely captivating. You might be discovering love with someone who's mesmerized by how your mind works, who asks you to explain your thought process because they genuinely want to understand your logic, who finds your attention to detail endearing rather than exhausting, who sees your high standards as evidence of your depth rather than as criticism of their inadequacy, and experiencing someone who doesn't just tolerate your Virgo qualities but actively celebrates them is going to feel like coming home to yourself. Here's the extraordinary reality unfolding for you. This love story is epic specifically because it's built on real compatibility rather than just chemistry. You're probably about to experience a relationship where the foundation is so solid it can support anything. Shared values that create natural alignment, complementary skills that make you genuinely better together, communication styles that mesh so perfectly you barely have to translate. And as Virgo, who analyzes everything, you're going to be able to see clearly that this isn't just feeling good in the moment. You might be experiencing provable evidence that this connection works, measurable improvements in your life since this person entered it, concrete examples of how you support each other's growth, and having relationship that satisfies both your heart and your analytical mind is going to create certainty you've never felt before because you're not just hoping it's right. You can actually demonstrate that it is. What's lighting up in the destiny architecture is this love is arriving at exactly the right time after all your preparation. You're probably recognizing that every previous relationship was teaching you something essential: what you need, what you don't want, how to communicate, how to maintain boundaries, and you've done the work. You might be meeting this person when you're finally ready for them, not desperate for anyone to fill void, but genuinely complete on your own and ready to share abundance. And that timing is perfect because the love you're building together isn't about two incomplete people trying to make whole. It's about two whole people choosing to create something even more magnificent together. This reflection invites you to consider how much of your readiness for extraordinary love comes from refusing to accept ordinary love. And whether every time you walked away from something that didn't feel right was actually you protecting space for something that does, making this epic love story possible through your own discernment and courage. You're probably about to experience love that's both deeply romantic and incredibly practical. You might be discovering a person who writes you beautiful messages and also handles logistics smoothly, who creates magical moments and also follows through on boring responsibilities, who understands that as Virgo, you need both poetry and reliability. You could be falling for someone who shows love through actions as much as words, who demonstrates their commitment through consistent, small gestures rather than just grand proclamations, and that alignment between what they say and what they do is going to allow you to actually trust what you're experiencing instead of constantly analyzing for inconsistencies. What's also crystallizing is this love story includes adventure that respects your need for planning. You're probably about to experience a relationship that expands your world without overwhelming your system's spontaneous experiences that still have thoughtful structure, travel that's adventurous but well researched, trying new things while maintaining enough familiarity to feel safe, and finding partner who gets that. You can be both organized and fun, both careful and spontaneous, both grounded and willing to take leaps, is going to free you from having to choose between security and excitement. You might be discovering you can have both. And that integration of seemingly opposite qualities is what makes this love story so special, because it honors all of who you are rather than just convenient parts. What's particularly beautiful about what I'm witnessing is you're building love story that gets better with time rather than fading. You're probably about to experience deepening connection where initial attraction matures into something more profound, where you keep discovering new layers in each other, where familiarity breeds appreciation rather than contempt. You might be with a person who's committed to continuous growth, who evolves alongside you, who's willing to do the work when things get challenging rather than bailing at first sign of difficulty, and as Virgo who thinks long term about everything, finding partner who's building toward future rather than just enjoying present is going to satisfy your need for sustainable love rather than just exciting love. Um, you're probably experiencing or about to experience being truly seen by someone for first time. You might be discovering a person who notices details about you that no one else catches, remembering preferences you mentioned once, anticipating your needs before you voice them, understanding your moods from subtle cues. And that level of attentiveness is going to feel incredible because you're so used to being the one who notices everything about everyone else. You could be experiencing reciprocity of care, where you're not doing all the emotional labor, where you're not the only one paying attention. And that balance is going to allow you to finally relax into being cherished instead of constantly managing the relationship. What's threading through the legendary love patterns is this relationship is going to inspire other people. You're probably building something so genuinely beautiful that people around you are going to be affected by witnessing it. Friends becoming more hopeful about their own love lives, family members commenting on how good you are together, strangers noticing the connection you share. And while you're too private to show off, you're not going to be able to hide how happy you are. You might become example of what's possible. And that ripple effect, where your love story encourages others to raise their standards and wait for real connection rather than settling, is part of why this love is legendary. It's not just changing your life, it's changing your entire community's understanding of what partnership can be. This reflection invites you to consider whether part of your purpose is demonstrating that practical, analytical people can have wildly romantic love stories, and whether your relationship is proving that you don't have to choose between your head and your heart because the right person activates both simultaneously. You're probably about to experience love that heals rather than wounds. You might be discovering a relationship that actually makes you more yourself rather than requiring you to perform or diminish, where your quirks are celebrated, where your sensitivity is honored, where your perfectionism is understood as care rather than criticized as anxiety. You could be experiencing safety you've never felt before. And that foundation of genuine acceptance is going to allow you to be vulnerable in ways you've protected yourself from in past relationships. And discovering that vulnerability with right person creates intimacy rather than pain is going to transform your entire understanding of what you're capable of feeling. What's also igniting is this love story includes intellectual connection that matches emotional connection. You're probably experiencing or about to experience conversations that genuinely stimulate you, debates that challenge your thinking, discussions that introduce new perspectives, exchanges of ideas that leave you energized rather than drained. And as Virgo, who lives so much in your mind, finding partner who can meet you there is essential. You might be falling in love with someone's brain as much as their heart. And that integration of mental and emotional compatibility is creating connection that's sustainable because you're not just attracted to them, you genuinely like them, respect them, find them interesting, and those qualities last long after initial chemistry fades. The epic love architecture suggests you're creating partnership that supports both people's individual purposes. You're probably building relationship where you're not losing yourself, where you maintain your identity, your goals, your friendships outside the relationship. And finding partner who encourages your independence rather than requiring constant fusion is allowing you to bring your best self to the connection. You might be discovering that healthy love expands you, gives you more energy for your work and passions rather than draining resources. And that synergy where being together makes both of you more capable in all areas of life is what makes this love story legendary, because you're not just partners, you're catalysts for each other's greatness. What's significant is this love is teaching you that you can trust someone completely. You're probably learning what it feels like to not have to manage everything alone, to share responsibilities, to ask for help and actually receive it, to lean on someone who doesn't collapse under your weight. And as Virgo, who's so self reliant, allowing yourself to be interdependent rather than completely independent is vulnerable. You might be discovering that partnership doesn't make you weak, it actually makes you stronger because you have support system that amplifies your capacity, and learning to receive that support with grace rather than guilt is transforming not just your relationship, but your entire approach to life. This reflection invites you to consider whether your hyper independence was always strength or whether it was sometimes protection against being disappointed, and whether this love story is showing you that you can maintain your competence while also accepting care, that being capable doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. Um, you're probably experiencing love that includes laughter in ways you didn't expect. You might be discovering person who makes you laugh genuinely, not polite social laughter, but deep belly laughs that surprise you, playful teasing that doesn't feel mean, inside jokes that create your own private language. And as Virgo, who can be quite serious, finding someone who brings out your playful side is delightful. You could be experiencing yourself being silly, letting go of need to appear composed all the time, and that permission to be lighthearted is balancing your natural tendency toward heaviness in ways that make you more whole. What I'm witnessing in the world changing love frequencies is this relationship is going to stand test of actual life challenges. You're probably going to face difficulties together, stress, loss, conflict, external pressures, and discover that your bond strengthens rather than fractures under pressure. And as Virgo, who analyzes worst case scenarios, actually experiencing that yes, this relationship can handle hard things is going to create security that no amount of good times alone could provide. You might be building love that's been tested and proven, and that evidence based confidence in your partnership is going to allow you to make long term commitments without the anxiety that usually accompanies your major decisions because you're not guessing, you know this works. The legendary love patterns suggest you're creating story that has beautiful chapters still unwritten. You're probably experiencing beginning of something that's going to unfold across decades, building home together, potentially creating family, certainly building life that reflects shared vision. And as Virgo, who thinks long term, finding partner who's equally committed to building future rather than just enjoying present is allowing you to dream bigger. You might be planning things you never let yourself want before because you finally have right person to build them with, and that expansion of possibility is making your entire life feel more meaningful because you're not just existing, you're creating legacy of love. So, as you experience this love story that's unlike anything you've witnessed before, let yourself fully enjoy it. You're probably tempted to analyze it, to find potential problems, to protect yourself from being too happy in case it doesn't last. But what if you just let yourself be happy? What if you trust that this is real and good and sustainable without needing to constantly test it? Trust that you found the right person because you were brave enough to stay single until right person appeared. You're probably grateful now for every relationship that didn't work out. Every time you walked away from almost right, every period of loneliness that made you question whether your standards were too high, none of it was wasted time. All of it was preparing you for this, teaching you exactly what you needed to know to recognize real love when it arrived and to be ready to receive it without self sabotage. This is your love story. The world has never seen anything quite like it because it's uniquely yours, built on your specific values, shaped by your particular journey, perfect for your actual personality rather than for generic romance ideal. And that authenticity is what makes it legendary. Not because it's dramatic or tumultuous, but because it's genuinely good, because it works, because it makes you better, and because you had wisdom to wait for something real instead of settling for something convenient. You're living the love story that proves Virgos can have it all: passion and stability, romance and practicality, excitement and security. You're demonstrating that analytical people fall just as deeply in love, and that your way of loving, careful, thoughtful, devoted, improving creates bonds that last because they're built on solid foundation of compatibility rather than just combustible chemistry. This is it. This is your epic love. Let it be as extraordinary as it wants to be. Let yourself be as happy as you deserve to be. And know that every careful choice you made, every standard you maintained, every time you trusted yourself enough to wait, it was all worth it. This is the love story you were always meant to live. Welcome to your beautiful beginning.